Ever feel like you're totally drowning in conflicting advice about acoustic treatment? Well, let me show you the 20% of things that actually give you 80% of the results, and how most people get this completely backwards. Hey, what's up? It's Jesko from AcousticsInsider.com, where I teach home studio acoustic treatment techniques for audio professionals, but without all the voodoo. And by the way, if you're new here, alongside these videos, I run my premium courses like Build a Better Bass Trap, which shows you how to design your own bass traps that work down to 40 Hertz while keeping your room lively, as well as absorber placement hacks for odd rooms to really pinpoint the panel placement in your room. And then also my acoustic treatment essentials bundle that pulls it all together. So if you're interested in that, have a look at the links in the description. So now let's look at the 80-20 rule in the context of home studios, what that actually looks like. The problem obviously is that there's so much conflicting advice out there, be it foam, bass trapping, diffusion, EQ corrections. So what do you actually focus on, and what really moves the lever in order to get a good sounding room, getting a system that actually allows you to work on mixes that translate properly? Here's the truth. Most of your acoustic problems, especially in a home studio, actually stem from just a few things. So if you fix those, everything else actually gets easier. But if you skip them, everything you do just masks the actual problems. So first up, your listening position, or what I call finding the room's low-end sweet spot. This is the spot in the room where the room modes naturally balance out against each other, giving you a overall balanced low end. If you get this right, you're really off to a strong start because everything you do builds on that. But if you place your setup randomly in the room, no amount of treatment can actually save you. I've seen this countless times with clients, and the problem literally is that you can't do enough low-end control, put enough bass trapping in your room in order to free yourself from the need to actually place your listening position in the low-end sweet spot. You just can't create enough low-end control where you can then choose your listening position based on just how you'd like to use the room and what is optimal in terms of just ergonomics and the shape and size of the room. Next up is speaker placement. And the only and main goal, the one goal that you have here, is to create a proper stereo soundstage and phantom center. You don't want to optimize for the distance to the front wall, the wall behind the speakers, or the side walls or anything like that, because you can absolutely mix and work around any type of acoustic effects, any type of coloration that boundary effects have on the sound from your speakers. But you can't mix if your soundstage is fuzzy. You can absolutely not compensate for not having a proper psychoacoustically created soundstage. I see this all the time where people complain about not being able to set space properly, so reverbs, delays, and obviously just also panning, right? So they can't hear where they place elements on a left to right plane. And the usual culprit is the fact that they don't have a proper stereo soundstage. And so they can't actually hear what the stereo signal sounds like. Instead, they worry about things like how far away the speaker is from the wall, because that's what, in fact, a lot of speaker manufacturer manuals say to focus on. And the problem is that that's just not where the big win is. The third aspect to the 80-20 rule in home studios is broadband absorption. So this means deep enough absorption so that it works from the lows all the way through the low mids, the mids, and the highs. If you use deep enough broadband panels, you can actually get pretty much full spectrum control apart from the very, very lows. So maybe below 40 Hertz. And that's kind of where the sweet spot is for broadband treatment as well. You want to get as much out of broadband treatment in terms of low-end control, because it is the most effective and easiest type of treatment that you can use. So for a DIY home studio, that's really what you want to focus on. And that's going to allow you to deal with bass issues, mid issues, high-end issues, flutter echo, all these things within just a single type of treatment. Now, the most common mistake I see people making overall when they approach treating a studio is they focus on the acoustic treatment before the positioning of their listening position and their speakers. But if you buy panels first and install them in the room, you often lock yourself into a position, a bad position, because the treatment's already up on the walls. But that's not efficient. That is actually expensive trial and error. The truth is that you need to plan your room around your setup, not the other way around. And that's why this is a non-negotiable. I've worked with so many engineers, producers, musicians who couldn't get their low end right, even with good gear and treatment. And almost always it comes down to the same thing. They didn't place their listening position in the low end sweet spot of their room. With most DIY setups, you simply can't treat yourself out of a bad position. The room just won't let you. But get the positioning of your setup right first, and suddenly the bass makes sense, and even before any of your treatment goes up. So let's recap the 20% that gives you the 80% of acoustic win. First, find your room's low-end sweet spot and place your listening position there. Then set up your speakers for a proper phantom center and stereo clarity. And then plan your treatment using deep broadband absorption that treats across the entire frequency range. Everything else, EQ, subplacement, diffusion, all that comes afterwards. So if you want to go through this process step by step and avoid the usual mistakes, make sure to grab my home studio treatment framework for free at the link below in the description. It's the roadmap that I've used with hundreds of clients in order to get their rooms sounding right and actually get their rooms to translate. But with that, as always, let's get back to learning to trust our ears and having fun making music in the studio. I'll see you in the next video.